So, it's the 20th anniversary of YouTube today. I wanted to make a video about it because YouTube has been a big part of my life, one of the biggest parts of my life, since it started when I was quite young, just the right age, I think, to be getting into it, so that by the time I was reaching secondary school and adolescence, I was developing a serious interest in it. 2005, that is the year that the iPod Mini was discontinued. It's the year that Batman Begins was released. It's the year that Doctor Who returned to TV. And it's also the year that Need for Speed Most Wanted was released. Now, I like physical media. Everything's becoming digital now, but I like the rattle. I like the sense of proper ownership that I have. It's also the year that YouTube launched, on the 14th of February. Initially as a dating site. Supposedly they wanted to start a dating site where you could upload video of yourself instead of just profiles. Then it became more of just a general video thing because of that whole wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl. Because there was a Super Bowl last Sunday. I'm still not sure what that is, though. I think it's something to do with the American equivalent of sport. Anyway, at the time YouTube was pretty big because when people heard about it, that it was a site where you could upload an unlimited amount of video, unlimited storage space, and it was completely free. And that was revolutionary. Also, I'm told, I don't remember, really. I was doing other things, like playing Need for Speed Most Wanted. But I don't remember when I first discovered YouTube. I suppose for me, really, it's sort of always been there. It wasn't always there. I am probably the last generation that wasn't around when there was YouTube. I think, though, now it's the generation after me growing up, YouTube predates them. To them, it's always been there. I think it's probably my generation that made the switch, that went from traditional media to digital, internet, new media. We must have been amongst the first to do that, and then everybody else slowly caught up afterwards. Because the YouTube slogan used to be broadcast yourself. It was like TV, but you could put yourself on it, and that was always very exciting to me. Although for a long time I didn't make YouTube videos. I would just browse. I think the YouTuber who really got me into YouTube was Charlie McDonnell, who at one point, I believe Charlie McDonnell was the first British YouTuber to reach 1 million subscribers, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were also the first YouTuber to be interviewed on BBC Breakfast, which at the time was a huge deal. Whoa, BBC Breakfast interviewing Charlie McDonnell. Whoa. Of course, now if someone's on BBC Breakfast, who cares? You know, that's TV. No one cares about that anymore. It's irrelevant. TV is no longer the validation. It's no longer the watermark of being important. If anything, YouTube has sort of made it so that doesn't really exist anymore, that dichotomy between celebrity and normal person. That everyone can do YouTube, and some of them just happen to be more well known than others. It's like a room full of people. Some people have more listening to what they're saying than others. But I think it has really created a fragmentation. That's what David Bowie called it when he started BowieNet. He was explaining that the internet was going to fragment the relationship between the creator and the consumer, so that they were sort of doing both, and it would become more two-way, and that's definitely what happened. Then 2010 is when I started my account. Charlie McDonnell was the first one I subscribed to, and I think after Charlie McDonnell, the next most subscribed British YouTuber was the Yogscast, and I loved the Yogscast. Like, I remember there was a time in my life when I would just wake up, and I had my bed facing one way, and then at the end I had my TV. That was my smart TV, and my PlayStation 3 was connected to it. Remember that? The PlayStation 3, which launched in, I think, 2007, which is when Vlogbrothers started making YouTube videos, and when Charlie McDonald started making YouTube videos. 2007 was a really big year, I think, when YouTube was quite rapidly building. And then I would wake up and I would... This is how lazy I was. I used to keep my PlayStation 3 controller, which I should have brought with me for this video, but never mind. I used to pick up my PlayStation 3 controller, which was next to the side of my bed, and I used to turn it on, and I used to use my PlayStation 3 as my streaming box. And I'd go onto YouTube, and I'd go into my subs, and I would just watch all the latest videos from my subscriptions. And a lot of those was a Yogscast, doing things like Minecraft. And then everybody wanted to do Minecraft, because Minecraft was like the first video game to become popular due to exposure from YouTube. And now everybody and their mum runs a Minecraft YouTube channel. And even I have a gaming channel. Minecraft is probably the one video game I may never do. Probably. I can't guarantee that, but yeah, I'm unlikely to ever do that. Mainly because with the upcoming film, I'm not sure I necessarily want to align myself with that, because I don't want to make videos for that kind of audience. I don't really want to associate myself with that brand, which is fine. And then when I'd say from like 2011 to 2012, and I suppose 2013, to me that was peak YouTube. That was pretty much what I like to think of as being the golden age, when it was something that everybody was using, everybody was aware of it. It was like a big playground or some sort of clubhouse where there was a room for every interest, and anybody could potentially become popular via YouTube if they were compelling enough or interesting enough or charismatic enough or funny enough. It's like in the film Belle. There's an anime film called Belle. And I should have brought that Blu-ray with me as well, but never mind. It's like the anime film Belle. Because Belle is about a virtual reality landscape called You, which is kind of like YouTube, but as a 3D space where you can create your own persona, and it's sort of like video game as real life kind of thing, where you can post your own content and you can become famous and successful. And it's about how, because a lot of those kind of films are very technology bad, internet bad, but Belle is a film about how actually it brings people together, and it can be an outlet for people who don't necessarily have any friends. And to me, that's exactly what YouTube was from 2011 to 2013, I would say. When I was in school, me and my friends all had YouTube channels. All of us were trying to make it, because really, I think once you've... This might sound pretentious. I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I think once you've ascended Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are still more places to go. You don't stop wanting to keep climbing once you have everything you need. You have food, you have shelter, you have other people around you, you have warmth, you have water. It doesn't stop there though. We don't just become satisfied with surviving. I think at that point, we then start to desire deeper things, like spreading our existence out, making ourselves known. If more people are aware of us, if more people are watching us, if more people are following us, then our existence becomes more true. It becomes bigger. It becomes more meaningful. Like we sort of spiritually exist much more, if you know what I mean. And that's what we were trying to do. All of us had YouTube channels. All of us were trying to make it. There was one friend I had who, in 2012, posted a video every single day and became fairly well known in school for that. None of the people I actually knew at school I'm in touch with anymore, and to be honest, I think that's for the best, probably. I think just life moves on, and we all just have our reasons for going our own way. But I think for those 3 years, that's when it really felt like the dream, and it felt like you really could accomplish anything. And I think coming up to the 20th anniversary of YouTube, I think a lot of us are fairly jaded about the way YouTube is now. But also, when we think about our idea of when the golden age was, it was so long ago that we were much different people then. We were younger, we had more free time, we were generally more enthusiastic. Over the past 20 years, as I have grown up, I have only become more jaded with the world. Now that I have the ability to understand what it's like, and just all the things that are happening. There's just so much information. There's so much negativity all the time. There are so many reasons to be afraid. There are so many reasons to not want to go out of my house. I become increasingly cynical about the human race and about where we're going. I become increasingly convinced that there's no point to anything, that there's nothing out there for us, that there's no hope. I tell myself I am writing a novel, but I have made barely any progress, even though if I were that serious about it, I would just get on and do it. But apparently I'm not doing that. And I don't know whether or not that's just me, whether that's just a writing process, or maybe it's because adult life is just weird and scary, and rarely ever fun. I don't know. So anyway, it's the 20th anniversary of YouTube, and I have been getting a bit reflective about that and about the way everything is now. And to be honest, I think it's more that time of my life that I want back, when you really felt like anything was possible, when everything felt like a blank canvas and you could paint whatever you wanted on it. Whereas now that YouTube has become so big, it has become the dominant entertainment form. It's bigger than TV. This year, for the first time ever, more people are now watching YouTube on TV than on their phones. I think it's become the first choice of domestic entertainment. This is like television in the 1950s. It's here to stay. It's a part of our lives now. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But in terms of why to post on YouTube and what to post there, that has changed a lot. There are very few YouTubers who were big during what I think of as the golden age that are still around. Markiplier is still around, although even he has gone into filmmaking now, and I hope he finds success in that, because being a filmmaker is a lot harder than being a YouTuber, and the payoff is way bigger. But who is still around from back then? A lot of YouTubers have retired. A lot of them have moved on to other things, used the skills and experience and contacts they've made through YouTube, and have now gone on to other things. That's what happens. Even I'm barely active here anymore. Most of my videos are unlisted now. Mainly because they're not very good. I used to want to be a professional YouTuber. Like, that was my dream. Between the age of maybe 12 to somewhere, it was my dream. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional YouTuber, so that I could just create content. But now, as I inch ever closer towards 30, that's not really what I want anymore. And I don't think that's because of how much YouTube has changed. It's because I think as I become older, I'm not a kid now. I'm less entertained by gimmicks. I'm less bothered by whether I'm popular. I don't really care how many views I get anymore, because the internet has lost its value. It's lost its meaning, because really what I'm after, I suppose, would be something more important than that. Inward fulfillment, spiritual satisfaction, something deeper, something that leaves a lasting impression on me, something personal, something human. I used to think, when I was 14, I used to think that by the time I'm the age I am now, that I would have become a successful YouTuber and that I was making a living off it. I used to go to meetups and meet other YouTubers, and I used to vlog about them. I used to vlog everything. I used to be posting videos weekly. I used to really be trying to make it. I used to mimic other YouTubers. I'd be thinking about my background and about the jaunty jingly music. Ding dee 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 ding dee 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 dee. Yeah, hey guys, yeah, that kind of thing. And about the lighting and about just what I was going to wear. And I used to put a lot of thought into it. But I look back and it didn't mean anything. Not because it didn't lead to anything, but because I think now any success I had from it wouldn't be doing anything for me anyway. Because what people need, especially as they become adults, is other people around them who can keep them sane, who are right there in front of them, and who are encouraging them in their real life. Because YouTube, when it started off, it was kind of like a social network. Now social networks are everywhere, and it's horrible. And I hate the way that it's become the norm. And I know that I'm going to sound like someone who's just complaining about things not being the same as they were when they were certain people's age. I get that. I get that. But I think that as I have become older, my needs have changed, my desires have changed. They've become more complicated. They've become less simple. YouTube used to fill a certain hole in my life. I want to be putting videos out there that people watch, so they like them and they subscribe. And then I feel good about myself because it validates me. That just doesn't do it anymore. And I don't know what does. I don't really know what I want now. Because everything is so complicated. Because that's what happens when you get older. Things just become complicated. That's just the way things are. You just become better at understanding it. But if that's the case, it's not something that can be filled by making YouTube videos. And I think when I was maybe 14, I wouldn't have imagined that YouTube would actually change. It never occurred to me that eventually a new generation would come in who would be making videos that were completely different, that had very high production values, but were very low in actual quality. And that the trends would change, and that the popular image of what a YouTuber is would change. Before, there used to be the vloggers. They'd have nice lights in the background, maybe some bus tickets on their wall or something, and they'd be making videos about all sorts of things, about interesting science facts or funny anecdotes, that kind of thing. Kind of like tweets, but in video form and slightly longer, like maybe 3 to 4 minutes. Not half-hour videos that have an entire production company behind them with thumbnails that make the viewer think the person who made the video thinks they are a moron. Pointing at the thing in the thumbnail so you know which bit of the thumbnail to look at. With their face going, "Aah!" So you know what kind of emotion you'll get from watching the video. It's very unhuman. And sometimes I think these people must be dead inside. Or just sociopaths who are very good at faking things. Well, I don't want to sound cynical, and I don't want to be complaining, and I don't want to sound jaded. But I think that the problem is, before, things were fairly easy to understand. I wanted to make friends on the internet, and the best way of doing that was YouTube, and all of my friends were doing YouTube. And in school, we would talk about YouTube. We would talk about each other's channels. People would come up to us and ask us about our channels and our videos. And you sort of became micro celebrities. Other students who didn't talk to you would recognize you and know your name and would shout quotes from your own videos at you. And it was kind of weird, actually. And I never really adapted to that. It was strange. And that was a tiny dose, because that was very localized. It was just in school. Now there are people who get that wherever they go in the world because of YouTube. And that is not the kind of fame that I want. But growing up, that was exactly what I aspired to. Because YouTubers were like superstars. Now, they still are superstars, but it's not exactly the same. And I think that it's simply because the people like me from that time, we have more complicated needs now. Whereas, really, who watches YouTube the most? It's going to be people who have a lot of free time. People who are basically the age that I was from 2011 to 2013. They are different. They're a different generation. What appeals to them is different. Their idea of entertainment is different. And I didn't know, when I was growing up, thinking, I'm going to be the next big YouTuber. I'm going to be the next big thing. I didn't know that by the time I'm the age I am now, not only would I have not actually achieved that dream, but that I would also no longer have that dream. Because it doesn't do it for me now. Before, it was like a happy button. You just press it, you get the nice chemicals. But that only works for so long until eventually you start wanting something that feels more significant. Feels like the kind of thing that is going to be long term. That's going to be a part of your life instead of just being a moment. It reminds me of that Cat Stevens song. It's called Father and Son. I can't quite remember all of the lyrics, but he talks about how he knows what it's like when you're young and you find something going on. And then he says, and this is the most memorable part of the song, is when he says, you may still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. And I've really been thinking about that song recently. That the things you used to want to do, eventually they don't satisfy you anymore. But you don't know what does satisfy you. Because as you get older, just internally you expand so much until eventually there's this huge dimension inside of you that is all twisty and it goes in all sorts of different shapes, and you can't quite describe what it is, so you don't really know what you're supposed to do with it. It needs something, you don't know what it is. You just discover how difficult it is just to keep yourself happy, to keep yourself satisfied. But that's not the way it used to be when I was growing up with YouTube. Because it used to be more like a game than anything else. You make a video, you post it, you see what people think. And you enjoy watching your friends' videos, but at the same time, you hope that yours does slightly better than theirs, that it gets slightly more views, that it gets a few more likes. It was like a game. And now we've all moved on, and we've grown up, and the things we want to do are complicated and difficult, and takes more mental resilience just to keep doing it, just to keep telling ourselves it's worthwhile. And we don't even know what it is that we want to do. You find an interesting thread, you pull it, you don't know where the thread's going to lead or how long it is. It might not be a very long thread, or it might be quite a long thread but not lead to anywhere that's fulfilling for you. You don't know. It's all just guesswork. But eventually, when you reach the end of that thread, if you like where it's taken you, stay there until it stops being fun. And if the place it's taken you isn't fun to begin with, find another thread. We're only here once. So you may as well try different things, switch from one thing to another. You don't have to be anyone, you just have to be you. But who are you? I don't know. I don't know who I am. I honestly have no idea. I'm just doing whatever I can think of. And hopefully something will work out. Hopefully it will lead to something that I can be proud of. But I have no idea. I just know that it's no longer sitting in my bedroom making YouTube videos. And if I do, it's mainly going to be a digital journal where I can talk about the way I feel about stuff. Where I would be quite happy to just be talking into a void and getting nothing back. Because honestly, that's how my life feels. I'm just trying things, not knowing what they'll lead to, not even knowing if it's going to lead to anybody, or if anyone's going to be aware of it, where it feels like I'm just doing it for me. But that's fine, I think. There's just a big question mark over everything now. How do I feel today? Question mark. What do I want to do now? Question mark. How can I decide what I want to do with my life in the long term if I'm not even sure of what today is going to involve? I don't know. My life used to revolve around making YouTube videos, scheduling them, planning them, posting them. I used to write down whole sheet loads of ideas. But now that just, it has diminishing returns. And I think the more I do it, the more I realise how just unfulfilling it really is. The more I do it, the more it tells me how unimportant it is that I do it. And I'm trying to find some sort of sense of self, but it still isn't there yet. Sometimes I feel like a big block of marble that hasn't been carved into a statue yet. That's honestly how I feel sometimes. I've got to just sort of break out of this shell but I don't even know what the shell is or how to make out, and if I do, what's outside of it and what I'm going to do when I get there.